Hey, Sarah Nickerson, Next Gen Medium, back with you. Uh, I have a tendency to get like really excited about projects, and then when they take more time than I have energy for, stuff kind of falls by the wayside. So let's continue Billie Joe Armstrong's birth chart and intuition analysis, something I started weeks ago. I'm actually forcing myself to do this today because if I don't force myself to do it, then it doesn't get done. But there's another video I wanted to film today because I'm all excited about it. So, unfortunately, in this point in my life, things are really fueled by my excitement about things. So, when I lose excitement, then things fall by the wayside, and then I don't do the things that I'm sort of like on a mission to complete. I'm hoping to change that. But Billie Joe Armstrong, last time we were talking about his chart. We were talking about his big three, Mercury, or we were looking at his big six, where we were looking at the big three. So let me go back here. We were talking about his sun at 27 degrees Aquarius in the second house, his moon at 1 degrees Aries in the fourth house, his ascendant at 4 degrees Capricorn. And I told you, and these were the sort of identity, sort of like archetype energy names that I came up with based on that Aquarius placement, that Aries placement, the Capricorn placement, these things of the sense of his soul self. And we had these different names: the Fire Heart Visionary, Independent Soul Builder, Revolutionary Sage. So now in this video, we're going to continue looking at his birth chart placements. And we're going to look now at, I might be looking at the rest of like the planet placements. We'll see how far I get because once I get chattering, sometimes it's like, sometimes I get sick of myself talking. So we're going to start with the personal planets. These are really identifiers of how he uses his energy, how he thinks, how he ideates, how he loves in relationships, how he does relationships, and then how he does things and motivation behind them. Oh, look at that. that's not accurate. Already I'm seeing mistakes. But real quick, next gen medium. That's sort of like what I do. With the point being that there are things about yourself that are metaphysical and are innate of you: psychic ability, intuition, and merging with the higher self, which is a roundabout way of talking about manifestation ability. And actually, manifestation is the product of merging with the higher self. So that's why I talk about higher self. These three things, they're a part of our physical selves merging with our metaphysical being to be that bridge between the worlds. We are capable of doing that. Every human is capable of doing that. And so Next Gen Medium is my vehicle to teach people these things. And this analysis, particularly while I talk about sort of the astrology of things, when it comes to this person's natal chart, this can be done for anybody, but we are also specifically looking at intuition and how that works. And so I teach a little bit with these readings. I'm showing the unique flavor in how this person can do these things, but the point is the showcase of intuition is always there for you. And this is how it can work for you. And here are the tips for you to look for when it comes to gaining that relationship for yourself. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she was like, really having trust in myself is something I've had a really hard time doing. And she's been through like trauma and her own stuff. And I'm going, okay, well, there are tools we can set you up with, but really there's a language for you to learn. And the problem is that we are led astray from listening to our gut and trusting what is ours because we're so used to being told how things are or what to trust, that it's hard for us to know that. Everything has set us up to not listen to that. So I'm here to change that with Next Gen Medium. I'm starting a community, Next Gen Sovereign, which is about developing the sovereign self so that you can have that relationship with your intuition and have trust. So you can forge that relationship with psychic ability and understand truth. So you can merge with the higher self and really have freedom and choice. These things are all available to us. It's a part of what I want to do with my community is create a community of people that have the truth, trust, and choice that they can feel within themselves, and then they can bring on for other people, that they can teach other people how to do that, that they can bring to their community. So that community is starting in January. It's going to be an online community. I think I might be doing something physical where I live as well. And the point of the community is so I can get you started on that journey like for free, and then you have the time to trial it and to really start gaining that relationship. And then once you want to bring that sense of, I need to talk to other people who are on this journey, I need a little bit of guidance, I want other people involved because I don't know if I'm doing it right, or I want to bounce this off of other people. You're going to want to get to that point in your journey. It's innate and natural because we're humans and that's what we do. That's where the Next Gen Sovereign community is for you in your next step in your journey of integration. Integration happens with other people. No, there is no spiritual journey if it doesn't involve other people. That is a journey that is in a reality that is by yourself. Once it's shared outside of you, that's when things can really take hold. That's when you're merging the two worlds. Okay. So that integration piece would be the next step in the journey. And then when you are a practitioner, you're a Reiki person, you're a psychic, or just a therapist or a nurse practitioner. And these are things that you want to embody and share with your community. Then we have the embodiment phase for those people that are luminary guides that are showcasing all of this stuff. And it's just how things are. Okay. All right. So nextgenmedium.com is my website. The Next Gen Sovereign Community has a webpage right now on my website. Link for that is below. This report is a report that you can order for yourself. I actually have 3 different reports based off of the astrology, and that connects you with your intuition, your psychic ability, your higher self practice and purpose. And this is something I create for people in order for them to start recognizing these relationships for themselves. Okay. You can get that at nextgenmedium.com. We are right at that point that I should be making decisions on Black Friday stuff. So follow me on Facebook, Instagram. That's where I'll be showing you, what you can get discounts on, what's coming up. Okay, let's get into Billie Joe's chart here. So recapping last video, I had like this big introduction about why I do the things probably, and it's been so long I can't even remember. But then we went through his 3 like soul and identity pieces of the sun, moon, and ascendant. Now we're going to take a look at his 3 personal planets. Again, why did I pick Billie Joe? Billie Joe has just been a constant presence for me in my life because I was 8 years old when I became a Green Day fan. That's where Billie Joe's from, by the way. He's a guy you don't know about. But he has gone through quite a transformation in the 30 plus years of being in rock and roll, being a public figure. And there's a lot of tug of war and conflict in his chart when it comes to being in the public eye, being a person of authority. And so it's really interesting to see these dynamics in his birth chart and to talk about them, but to also be a fan of his and kind of recognize these aspects of his personality, which I will say, being a Green Day fan, there is a lot of privacy in that band. There's a reason why they've lasted as long as they have. And part of that is they're not airing all their dirty laundry out in the world. And that has probably been what has kept them, uh, you know, a solid group for as long as they have been, to the point where they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have a star on the Hollywood, what is it, Hollywood Walk of Fame. Um, and they are at that legendary status, which is, kind of crazy to have been like a Green Day fan back in like the Nimrod Warning days, and to think that my favorite band are legends now. Like, it's awesome, but it's also like kind of surreal. So let's talk about more placements for Billie Joe, so we can kind of see like these. Not This is the thing about astrology, is these placements aren't dictating him. It's sort of like these energetic signatures are giving us flavor of like what was in the air, that's sort of like a part of what was imprinted for his energetic being, you know? So it's not the stars dictating our energy, it's the stars are representatives of the energy. And we use the stars, planets, the sun is a star, the moon, luminaries. We use them to understand the energetic signatures going on. They help us interpret that. Okay. So here we got 3 personal planets. We've got Mercury at 28 degrees Aquarius in the second house. We've got Venus at 8 degrees Aries in the 4th house. I got to make sure I have these right, because now I'm paranoid, because I have Mars at 4 degrees Sign in the 5th house. That's Taurus, by the way. And the reason why I know that is because of the picture here, showing right where things are. So let's break this down. And again, something I mentioned in the last video that I'm going to bring back in this video is watch for those 1st degree and final degree indicators in his chart. So last degrees are 28, 29, 27, 28, 29. That's like last degrees of a sign. And then the 1st degrees of the sign are like 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, in this circumstance, we have one that's slightly, on that lower end, that 4 degrees Mars in Taurus. But here we are with another like strong placement of a early sign or late sign degree signature. And that's that Mercury at 28 degrees Aquarius in the 2nd house. His sun is Aquarian, and his sun is at 27 degrees. We mentioned this in the last video, and I'm pretty sure we probably mentioned a very important energy that is a part of his sun energy. Let's recap that the sun is about that soul energy. It's the energy we are looking to embody, to have our freedom, to be able to work our purpose. It's how we are in alignment with the universe, is that sun energy. And for Billie Joe, that's 27 degrees Aquarius. It's kind of futuristic. It's of the people. It's of the masses. There's also a technology component. It has a distinct. So the funny thing about Aquarius, and it depends on like what school of thought you're kind of you kind of go along with, because Aquarius has 2 rulers. It has an old ruler and it has a new ruler. And I want to focus on the new ruler, which is Uranus. And I think it's so appropriate for Billie Joe, who has his sun in Aquarius. And we talk about Uranus because Uranus is the punk rock planet. And Billie Joe is a punk rocker. But there's an interesting dichotomy with Billie Joe because he's a punk rocker, but he's also very like kind of traditional. Like he has a lot of traditional energies or energies that are sort of ground in a past, something that's been built, and he is a strong um, st- structural um, builder in that, in which he supports that as well. Even though there's this huge piece of him that wants to have revolution, that wants to rebel, that wants to counter, and have big ideas because that is Uranus energy. So the new ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And so we see this as part of his energetic signature just with soul energy. But here we come back to Mercury. Mercury, 28 degrees Aquarius. It is a later degree. Why does that matter? Why do I keep bringing up the degree thing? Because a later degree is a mastery of that energy in that specific way. And he already has that soul energy signature of higher self being in a late degree of Aquarius, of that punk rock energy. But we take it a step further and we have a merging of his signature energy that has to do with Mercury, thinking, expression, talking, singing. The thoughts that have gone through this man's head are something that we know him for, and that is a part of his purpose and what he does here on the earth plane. He's sharing the thoughts that go through his head that he's created and that he has compiled together and that he vocalizes. Thinking, expression, actually like talking, these are all Mercury. This is Mercury 28-degree mastery level, and then we combine it with that soul energy. So it's almost the same energy. So not only taking on that rebel punk rocker energy, but he expresses it. And this is how we know him. And this is also how he makes his money because it's in the second house. Second house is value, but also finances. So who he is when he merges with his higher self, which has to do with how he expresses that punk rock energy piece, that's how he makes his money. And it shows it right there on his birth chart. That's crazy. Mercury, 28 degrees, master level, punk rocker, second house. That's how he makes his money. Can't make it up. Let me look at my notes real quick just to make sure that I said all the things I needed to say. Mercury, how you think, communicate, process information. Oh, the other thing to mention about Mercury in Aquarius and with that ruler of Uranus, that's the new school ruler, because the old school ruler, I want to say is Saturn, which is his chart ruler. So it's very complementary. And where is that Saturn? It's in the final degree. I'm bringing this up too soon. It's in that final degree of Taurus, which has a very similar vibe to Capricorn. So Saturn being in that sign, like, kind of works really well. 29 degrees, a master. And it's in the fifth house, which is about creativity and joy. And then Taurus is about nice things like music and art. It's just stupid. It's stupid how much this makes sense for this man that I've followed for so long. It's just gets me excited. Okay. There was something. Mercury, 28 degrees. Oh, the other thing about Mercury or about Well, yeah, Mercury actually, and the Uranus energy is it's fast, 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 fast. So the processing information, the communicating, the thinking, these are things that happen really fast for him. And in some ways, like I think about psychic ability, my own experience with psychic ability, in which I get information so fast that I can't almost figure out how I get information sometimes. And it's not until I started like studying and crafting psychic stuff that I started to pay attention to the imagery I would receive or the notions I would get. And actually, like watching Jeopardy and playing Jeopardy is a way that I started noticing like how I was getting information that was psychic information. Sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's auditory, sometimes it's the just knowing, or I like visualize the words of the answers. So there's a tip for you. If you want to like practice psychic ability and you have like strong Mercury or Uranus placements, maybe these are things that you could sort of, I would say don't worry about the placements. I would say like that's actually one of the tips I or exercises that I give people to practice their psychic ability is to watch Jeopardy and notice how you're getting information. Sometimes we can place, oh, I remember I learned that in world history in ninth grade. But then there's other things that happen, and the more you watch it, the more you'll notice where you go, I don't know how I know that, but I'm recognizing that I just saw a visual of the answer. So, how do I know that answer? And the more that you kind of notice these things happening, the more you start to accept that maybe psychic ability is a thing that you can do. And so I do wonder for Billy Joe, the quick information he gets and to see it line up with like that soul self, God self energy, like that it, like I see this and I just see that this is a person who channels, and he may think that he's just a generator of great lyrics and ideas, and but it's actually he's getting it from the universe or source or whatever. um but he's the vessel that it works through. It's his brain and his memories and his feelings and emotions that are also processing what we get in order for him to make money and to have value, because that's second house. Lightning fast pattern recognition. Oh, this is the other thing. I may have mentioned this before, maybe I haven't. And I'm not here to diagnose or like, you know, but I see this combination, and um me myself like having a connection with this guy, and maybe there's something we have in common because I also did songwriting for a long time and notice things for myself. But I do wonder about ADHD, if that is a part of something for this individual because of being able to process things so fast and to have pattern recognition. That is like a signature of like the ADHD brain thing. And that's how we can almost like psychically know things from a relative perspective of like being able to catch on to things really fast, you know. Messages arrive like downloads. I totally understand that. Especially when I like first started getting into spiritual stuff. I'd drink coffee and smoke cigarettes and it was just like boom, like it was all coming down. And I'm still like trying to compile all that information from those years in order to like I want to put it together and make a book out of it. That's my goal. February is my goal for that to be released. Technology, air emphasis, ideas. I just got really out there. Your thinking, communicating directly creates income and self-worth. There is a south node, north node component in that second house. We'll see if we get around to that. Why am I mentioning the Gemini? I don't know. Is it because of the Mercury? Oh, okay. I don't know why that's in there. You're a master encoder decoder whose livelihood is the clean delivery of big human truths. Okay, that's Mercury. Am I going to get to the other planets after this? Probably not. Okay, so let's move on to Venus. Venus is how you love, how you have relationships, the kind of relationships you have, traits about significant others. When we go to Venus, we're going to the fourth house. I think there's a really interesting dynamic here for Billie Joe and Venus energy, because Venus energy is feminine energy, and something that's really prominent. Well, let's talk about the themes here for him with Venus. So Venus, 8 degrees Aries, fourth house. So we're going at the bottom of his chart. That's where the fourth house is. We have in this house, oh, first of all, fourth house. Fourth house is about your roots, your family, your home, the family you grew up with, the family you end up having. We have an Aries energy here. So this colors that to be a house that maybe has a lot of ambition, a house that has, there's always a word with Aries that I forget. And I got to write it down someday because I always forget what the word is. It's like a pioneering energy. But it can also be an energy because it's related to Mars. It can have an assertive and an aggressiveness to it. But it can also have like a sense of like setting out on the journey and excited about what's to come, because there is sort of um, a naivety to Aries. It's the start of the journey. That's the signature energy of Aries. It's like the Fool card in the tarot. You're just setting out, and maybe you have these ideas of how things are going to be because you don't know what you're actually in for. but Aries is like pioneering. It's ready to lead. It's ready to get the journey going or be the front runner, um and so that's the energy that is a part of that fourth house for him. It's I was just thinking, he has family from Oklahoma. I'm just remembering this, Okies. And that means somewhere in his family lineage there was sort of this pioneering energy, which was a word that I just said for the Aries. So I wonder how much of that, and I believe he has a bigger family too. So there's a lot of energy going on there, which houses that Aries kind of feel energetic. It's fire. Um, and to have that part of your fourth house means like that's part of your lineage is leadership or pioneering um or maybe even like military. Maybe that could be part of it as well. Um, Now, interestingly for Billie Joe, he has these soft, feminine, emotional energies that are part of this house for him. And I feel like it really emphasizes with the moon, which is representative mother. Um, I really feel like it emphasizes how important feminine energy was for him growing up. Um, with that moon placement at that 1 degree, there's that archetype energy, 1 degree. We also have the Venus here too. And Venus is that feminine energy. It's the yin and the yang. You got to have both. And the Venus here and in an Aries sign, like, shows a sense of like there is an empowerment to women that he grew up with, that maybe he adopted as well. And to also know that he married a woman that he really admires still. Like, they've been married for a very long time. I think showcases that this is a man who grew up with empowered women around him, and has empowered has an empowered woman as part of his home life to this day still. Um, I also think about his influence of one of his sisters who listened to punk rock, and that kind of influenced him, and his music taste. So I actually really connect that early feminine energy, that empowering woman energy, the pioneering woman. I feel like there's that connection here in that fourth house for him. It's really strong. It's really like, as a woman, like, that's great to see coming, as that was part of his growing up, was to appreciate that in women, or to experience that in women. You can also have, Aries be an assertive or aggressive energy too. So that could certainly be a part of that. Um, we're not going to talk about the Chiron though. I don't think so. It's kind of close to that Venus though. So, okay, maybe I got to talk about the Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer in the chart. So this is something that happened earlier in life that has a woundedness to it. And as he lives his life, is something that keeps coming back, where the wound gets reopened and has to be healed. But the trick with the Chiron, with the wounded healer, is eventually you become the healer for those with the same wound. So I guess the question would be, when it comes to Venus, when it comes to feminine energy, what is it that has that woundedness for him? Is it his own connection with that feminine energy of himself, that was sort of a sense of like, maybe feeling ashamed or embarrassed about that, maybe feeling angry about that, anger towards women, or angry because of strong women? I don't know, but that's the Chiron, kind of close to that Venus energy, but may also be what helps heal, you know? So that's kind of fascinating. So let me look at my notes and make sure I got all the things checked off the list. His love style, bold, initiating, loyal, and protective. We have Mars as the main energy for that Venus. So there's kind of conflict there, because it's not so soft. It maybe can be kind of hot, and it can be aggressive or assertive. But we have that loyalty there. We have that protectiveness as well. Nothing lives in a silo. There's always a little something here and there that is representative of the whole. So, also looking at a affinity, maybe a lineage of courageous, pioneering feminine energy. Home is love's stage. I think that's a wonderful thing to bring up here, especially for somebody who so much of his chart has to do with this tug of war with public persona, and a sense of authority of the self. And then that moon in the fourth house, that emotional place, that privacy, that security. And then to also have Venus there, like, this is the soft place in the Aries energy, which doesn't make it so soft, but this is where he can land and sort of feel maybe a little more protected. Um, but relationship is also another place of security for him too. Looking at the where Cancer is, in his chart, and it's that 7th house, which is about relationships and partnerships. I think he has had those protective, secure partnerships, not just with his wife of 30 years, but also his best friend, who has been his bandmate since the start of the band, for 30 plus years. So this is a man that partnerships are a place of security for him and home. Roots, family, women, and private life continually shape his values in art. And for the summary, relationships thrive on shared bravery and a fiercely tended home fire. One last thing about the 4th house I always like to mention is we think of it as a location of home, but I also like to think of it as home within the self. So, what's reflective of the home within the self is also reflected in the structure of home that you call home, the place you call home. And there's also reflections of that in the home you grew up in, and in what modeled what home was, and eventually what you created from that model. Last up, we got Mars at 4 degrees sign in the 5th house. Stupid. It's 4 degrees Taurus in the 5th house. So Mars is how you create, how you work, physicality of your movement, why of your movement, the motivation. And when I think of Billie Joe, I get a little frustrated with him sometimes because I feel like this is someone that's very guarded and really holds privacy to a level that, like, I don't understand. Um, but I'm a different person than him. So what he feels very guarded about, which is very Taurus energy, um, can be, something that I go, dude, get over it, but for him is something, maybe there's a reason why it's very guarded and not something he wants to be sharing. Um, the reason why I'm even like talking about this is because I feel like this is very indicative of his Taurus energy and Mars. So Mars is a motivator. What motivates Taurus energy? What motivates it is a sense of stability. Mars in Taurus, it is moving because of stability, which I think he's always been doing with his career in ways that are almost like he loses opportunity because of it. But I think finally, once he loosened the grip a little bit, and he's done much more loosening of his grip lately, I feel like he's been able to reap the rewards, but he has to own his authority in that process too, which for him, I think really, I feel like I'm getting really heady with this, but I think for him, he almost had to separate like me as a person of authority versus security. Like these weren't in the same realm for him for a very long time. And maybe he's still like kind of has these things very separate. But unfortunately for him, so much of his signature energies have to do with being a father figure, being a person of authority, um, creating legacy, using tradition, even though there's this huge, other side of him that wants to be of the future and wants to innovate and wants to communicate the thing that's the counter to that. It's really confusing. I can see why there would be a lot of conflict with this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of energies that are in these earth energies of his that sort of conflict with these air energies that are very prevalent in his chart. But the nice thing is that he has a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of fire, a little bit of earth, a little bit of air, not a lot of water, which you know, you don't need all the elements. I think I'm a perfect example of that. I got a ton of fucking air. It's almost like this is why I can't get anything done. This is why nothing takes form. This is why I'm talking about all the things I want to do, but they don't get done. But when you have a lot of earth energy, you're able to create things that can stand the test of time. That's the Capricorn energy. That is his ascendant energy, first house, identity energy. That energy feeds into his passions, that fifth house where his Mars is. So, what happens in that fifth house of passion? It's Taurus energy, which complements the Capricorn very well. And there's the chart ruler in that house, too. So, we've got the Saturn, dad energy, who sometimes Saturn is just ripping things out of your hands and really making you work with what you got. And sometimes you're like, I don't have any more. But Saturn's like, oh, you got something because you're not dead yet. So just keep going. And that Saturn energy actually complements Taurus really well because Taurus wants things to be physical as well. Saturn's job is to bring things into the physical realm, but keep it there. Keep it there. Think of like building a building, you know. Saturn wants you to build it right with the foundation and the studs and the everything to code and, because that's what makes the building stand the test of time. And Taurus is also very much of that speed and that energy, which isn't a very fast energy. It's kind of slow. It's kind of annoying how slow it is. This is air energy person saying how annoying it is. But this is the energy that physical world works with in order for shit to like happen and take hold and withstand 30 years of rock and roll, withstand 30 years of marriage. So to see, I just realized another thing about that Mars. To see Mars, what you create in the house of joy. I got to talk about something else real quick, but in the house of joy and creativity and passion, like this is where you make music. This is the thing right here. It gets you excited, right? That's why you do it. And that Taurus energy is a part of, let's see, the themes of Taurus, farmer, being a farmer, agriculture, finances, banking, but also fine art, fine music. Maybe in the far future, how we think about classical, maybe punk rock will be like classical of the future, that'll be kind of more considered fine art. But to have that Mars in Taurus with that element of like fine art, fine music, I mean, Broadway could probably go into that as well. Like they did Broadway stuff. It takes the passion energy in order to create the thing in that theme. But it also takes that 29 degree Capricorn or 29 degree Saturn energy. The boss. This is boss energy. This is the master of passion. This is someone who can rein in and amazingly enough, take the feeling of passion and create physical thing with it. That is how you work your purpose. That's how you do it. It's amazing. So the other thing I wanted to mention was he has 2 sons. Fifth house is about children too. To see Mars in that house is also kind of indicative, or it can be an indicator of male children. To also see Taurus in there could indicate that that's their sun sign, maybe. It could also indicate their energy of becoming musicians as well, or artists, which I believe one of them in particular, I think they're both musicians, but there's one in particular I'm thinking like he's even into photography, and that would go into that as well. We will be talking more about that Saturn though. And then the physicality. I was talking about how Taurus moves really fucking slow. So to see Mars and to know like the plethora of stuff Billie Joe has created, and to see it in the house of joy and passion, which is energy that moves fast, but then to also see Taurus in there, like, this is a guy that might sit on a song for like 20 years. So it's kind of interesting to see the Taurus energy as part of his passion energy, but this is how he can make it part of our physical realm and physical world. So altogether, your words and ideas are your currency, and they land because you deliver them clearly and cleanly. You love with bold loyalty and need a private sanctuary where affection is active and protective. You create best through steady, sensual dedication to craft. That is okay. That's another thing I didn't mention about Taurus. Taurus is a very like physical, sensual sign. And it actually reminds me of something he said once in an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, and you could probably go find it on YouTube. And it was like during COVID, so he had like a big beard and all kinds of hair and stuff, and all kinds of hair. And he said something about tasting sounds, which would go along with that Taurus sensual, sort of active Mars placement. In which your Mars is capable of experiencing, of having action through your sensations, taste being one of them, but also like, does he hear things? Which in my world, other experiences where that could be other things. But there's, tasting and smelling and all these things are a part of psychic work. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences of like smelling things that weren't there, and how does that create messaging for him or trigger a song or trigger a passion, and then that sense of like being able to taste a song and maybe it tastes bitter, maybe that's, I don't like how that tastes, that sound together. That is